We enter 1989 for the Disk System with the exit of one of its brightest lights. Halley Wars marks the end of Taito's association with the platform. They haven't always been great. The less we say about the Disk System port of Kiki Kai Kai, the better. But Taito's been spending a while porting games that they considered to be marginal to the Disk System with pretty good results. And their last outing is another example of that. Halley Wars, which is a port of their arcade game Halley's Comet, which naturally came out in 1986. Halley's Comet wasn't especially well received at the time. It really felt backwards compared to the new generation of shoot-'em-ups that was emerging at that point. Naturally, the title of Halley's Comet, and, well, Halley Wars, comes from a comet whose period brings it back to Earth every 76 years. It's notable for being especially visible and bright, except in 1986. In 1986, you couldn't really see it with the naked eye, so a lot of people who were excited for the return of Halley's Comet wound up being very disappointed. The ball of cosmic ice and the arcade game were both letdowns, but what about the port that came 3 years later? The plot of the game is that on one of Halley Comet's returns, it brought aliens along, and now those aliens are going to destroy the Earth, unless one fighter goes up and shoots down all of the aliens. Halley Wars is a very simple shoot-'em-up. You're always just flying through the void of space, mashing the B button to fire as fast as you can. The gimmick of the game is that if any aliens slip by you, then they attack the Earth. There's a percentage at the bottom of the screen, and if that reaches 100%, then it's an instant game over. So this is a game where you have to be a bit accurate, as well as quick on the trigger finger. The alien patterns are actually a bit mean. This isn't Xevious where they'll intentionally try to avoid you. They'll do some funny zigzag patterns, especially once they get towards the bottom of the screen. And if you're trying to get out of the way after failing to destroy them, then there's a real chance they'll just swerve right into you. There does seem to be some escalating difficulty where enemy spawns get easier after you die, but because you've lost all of your power-ups, it probably doesn't help a whole lot. You get power-ups by shooting open asteroids that float around in space. Some of these will contain an item after you blast them open. The most common thing you'll find are the escort bombs, ships. Well, they're vehicles that fly in formation with you, will sometimes shoot, but more often than not won't. And if you hit the A button, you'll launch one of them up the screen, where they'll explode, destroying any enemies that are out there. That's mainly useful for when you encounter the giant formations that sometimes appear at the halfway point of stages. The Firebird symbols will upgrade your firepower. Blue ones add an additional forward shot, while red ones will add a spread. The item that looks like a ship will speed up your movement if you collect it. I never reached a point where I was feeling really out of control with those. And then if you find one of the rare spheres, they'll do something that will maximize one of your abilities. Give you full firepower, full speed, destroy everything on the screen, or give you a force field that will let you take a few hits. Naturally, at the end of every stage there's a boss, and these are only vulnerable when they open up to shoot. Also, while you're fighting the bosses, enemies keep coming and still attack the Earth, so you'll need to make sure you're covering them as well. Defeat the boss and you'll get bonus points based on how few enemies slip past you. And then it's on to the next stage, which looks a lot like the previous stage. At least it sets the Earth damage level back to 0 when you move on to a new level. There's 8 stages, clear all 8 and the game loops. There aren't any continues if you run out of lives, but there is a cheat code that you can use. If you hold down the B button on the second player controller, and then reset the game, then keep holding B down until you start a new game, then you'll have auto-fire. That runs at an extremely slow speed, and you'll probably just want to mash the button anyways. So, maybe not the most useful cheat code. Halley Wars did get one more port after this, to the Game Gear of all systems. So as weirdly late as this port is, the Game Gear port's even later. It seems that there's very few people who are familiar with Halley Wars in Japan, but amusingly, most of the comments I found about it were, "Oh, this game's just like Halley's Comet." Changing the name for this version definitely did not help Taito there. This is a very straightforward game without a whole lot happening. Not a huge variety of enemies, not a whole lot of power-ups. It was also not really a bad game. Forcing you to play aggressively and accurately is a nice addition to a shoot-'em-up, but I feel like this would have been middle of the road for a 1986 release on the Famicom. In 1989, it just doesn't hold a candle to what's happening. I'd put it in the bottom third of shoot-'em-ups for Nintendo 8-bit consoles. Just barely in that bracket, but still down there. This game needed something more. More enemies, more interesting stage design, more weapons, more variety, more something. As it stands, the only thing that's memorable about Halley Wars is the gimmick.